Hey now, my name is Nick, this is Board Game Brawl, and it is time for another one of my top 10 lists. This time it is the top 10 games of Essen Spiel 2014. Yes, I know my title was probably a little bit misleading again. I didn't actually play any of these games that are going to make it onto my top 10 list, but these are the games I am most interested in, most want to try out, and hope to hear some good buzz about. Now, if you're not familiar with the Essen Fair, this is, well, this is an interesting thing. It was the biggest board gaming convention in the world. Some people are claiming that Gen Con of 2014 this year officially either met up with it or surpassed it. I don't know, and I don't even know that it matters, but they're definitely getting to be on even footing. But nevertheless, Essen Spiel will always be a huge fair. This is where people come, vendors of all different sizes and shapes, tiny companies, one-man operations, to huge publishers. They come to this fair to show their brand new games and to show their old games as well and to demo them. And it's just a humongous fair from everything I've understood, but I've never been there myself. Hopefully one day I will. Of course, most of the games that are at the fair are European games. A lot of them, I think nowadays most of them are in English, but some of them are in German only or maybe only in French. I mean, this is also the fair where people come to re-release older games in a different language. This is a great place to do it because it's like this melting pot of different cultures. Although I think it still retains a very heavy German focus. There's a lot of games premiering at this fair that are either starting off only in German or are now getting their first German edition. But a lot of American companies also come to Essen Spiel to sell their games as well if they don't have an international version of the game yet anyways, or they're just going to go there anyways to, you know, show off what they have. And you saw that kind of crossover at Gen Con this year as well, where some European companies were coming over to Gen Con for the first time. So I think those borders are breaking down, but there will always be a healthy competition between the two conventions. Now, one new thing that I like to do with these top 10 lists is, at least for the iterative top 10 lists that I do, is talk about the games that made it onto my list last year. This is the second annual Essen top 10 list that I've done. The first one, I was still trying to get my feet under me, not only as far as the channel goes, but also being hardcore into the hobby. I still think I'm, you know, trying to get my feet under me all the time, but so I don't know about my picks. I actually think I have some really great picks here. Some picks that I haven't played yet, and some picks that I hope to play. Some picks I'm like, I don't know why I picked that, but let's go through this journey together really quickly and talk about the games I picked last year. So my number 10 was Stories with an exclamation mark. Never heard anything else about this game ever again, and I'm kind of glad that I never had the opportunity to probably be disappointed by it. I don't know, it's probably an amazing game. It was like a storytelling game where you draw a card and there's like certain words that everyone else needs you to put into your story. And if you don't, you're penalized for it, but if you make it, you get points. It sounds like a cool idea. The reason why I'm very apprehensive about it now is because I've played a lot of storytelling games since then till now, and I'm starting to learn that it is not a genre for me. Once Upon a Time, Winter Tales, which I started off liking a lot, but they got very disappointing for me over time, over several plays. Even Tales of Arabian Nights just did not work for me. So I don't think it's a genre for me as much as I like thematic games. So it's probably for the best that I didn't try it. My number 9, though, was Origin, which is a game that is still on my shelf that I picked up probably earlier this year, so maybe about 6 months after the fair. Awesome game. Great gateway game. Gorgeous, like every other Madagot game. Just a beautiful game to behold. Whenever someone says, wow, you know, a new person says, wow, some of these games have really cool components, I'm like, let me show you this. And then I can sit down and play it with them because it is so simple, but so fun and fast. So great game. Definitely one of the best picks on this list. Number 8 is Lewis and Clark. This is an interesting case. I picked up Lewis and Clark as well. I did a review of it, and my review was mostly positive. It had really interesting mechanics, beautiful artwork and components, and so on. Now, after having played the game more after my review, I still recognize it as a good game, but it was a game that I decided did not fit in my collection because I had other games that had clever card play that did things better. I felt that Lewis and Clark was too long, too brain burny, really prone to analysis paralysis, and for every game that I had a really good time with it and really felt that crunchiness that, you know, that felt good about it, I would have a game that was just felt like a total slog. So it's not in my collection anymore, but it wasn't a bad pick. I think there's a lot of people that would genuinely love it. So if you haven't tried it yet, give it a shot. Next is Caverna. I still haven't played Caverna. It's so expensive. I haven't had the opportunity to play it with anyone else. And also, it was completely unavailable for a while. Even when the US edition came out, like, it was going in and out of stock like crazy. But now it's like pretty available. There's always a copy on the shelf at my local Cool Stuff. But it's $80, even by Cool Stuff prices. So it's crazy. I just haven't been willing to drop the money on it because I have such bad luck with Euro games. But it looks really cool. It looked like the type of Agricola I would actually like. So one day, hopefully, I can get to give it a shot. Legacy, the Testament of Decreasy. It's criminal that I haven't played this game yet. I really, really want to. I've had opportunities to pick it up. I've had opportunities to play it with people, but I don't know. I'm always in the middle of something. I'm really, really interested in the game. I'm really hoping to give it a shot. Maybe I'll make that one of my, like, stupid board game resolutions for the next year. I don't know, but I still want to try it quite a bit. Corto, I picked that one up, and actually it was a gift from someone, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of the most, again, gorgeous Madagot game. Wow, what do they do over there, man? I don't know how they get their games to look so good, but and not cost like $1 million. But really cool game, really thematic game, gateway game, very story-driven and thematic, and an experience like no other. It is on the cusp, though, of going out of my collection. And the reason for it is just because it's beautiful and there's nothing really wrong with it. It's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just kind of the same. I mean, it's not too exciting, even though it looks good. I don't know. Part of me wants to keep it just because of how unique and interesting it is. CV, my number 4 game last year, I still want to play that game a lot. It seemed like such a cool idea, this dice rolling game of trying to like build out your life. I've had some opportunities to get it. It was never released domestically. I'd have to import it. I'd have to get it from a site like Fun Again for a really high cost. I just haven't been willing to do it, but I still want to give it a shot. Heart of Crown, that I did get. I got that in a batch of Japanese games, and it's really fun. It's one of the coolest deck builders I have. It plays like a lot of other different deck builders, but there's some interesting aspects to it, like vying for control of these princesses that give you special abilities. Yeah, I know, it doesn't sound great, but it is. The way that the cards come out in the buy row, the purchase line is really cool and how that works. The way that you can sort of sack cards and put them out of your deck and get bonuses for doing so. Really, really cool. I haven't played it in a while, but it's a great deck builder, so I'm happy with that pick. Seven Swords, my number 2, which was a Game Salute release in this past year, quite a while ago, actually. I kind of don't know what I was thinking putting this on this list. It's cool. It looks like it's got a cool theme. It's a 2-player only game, which is notoriously difficult for me to play in this group. And the components don't look like too much. And I've just heard some kind of lukewarm reviews about it. So I probably knew nothing about the game when I put it on there. I probably put it at number 2 based on theme alone. I'd still like to give it a shot. So one day, who knows? It might be amazing. You know, there's a lot of games I like that a lot of people don't like. So you never know. But probably shouldn't have been that high. And my number 1 is Super Fantasy. And I did get a chance to play someone else's copy of Super Fantasy, and it was a lot of fun. Again, never given a full domestic release. I believe there is a company called Golden Egg who will be releasing a North American version of it later this year if they haven't already. But until then, I haven't really been willing to import the game, but it was a lot of fun. I liked the art style. It was a dungeon crawler, but it had some unique aspects to it that other ones hadn't. So I'm happy with that pick, and one day I hope to play it again and give you a full review. Now, after all of that, let's get to my top 10 anticipated games of Essen 2014. Okay, I didn't really plan on having 2 games from the company Artipia back to back, but it just happened that way by coincidence. And also, this one, I'll just admit it right now, a big reason, I do want to play it, I'm very excited and interested to try it, but a big part of the reason I'm picking it is just to prod people and poke people, which I do love to do from time to time. It is Lap Dance from Artipia Games. This caused a firestorm of controversy on Board Game Geek just a couple of months ago, and probably still even to this point. Before they shut down some of the comments on Board Game Geek. Because the theme of the game is that you are in the running to become the manager of this really popular strip club. And you are trying to make the customers and the clientele of the strip club as happy as possible by seeing to their needs with all the typical things that a strip club might do. And the game has made some efforts to be, sort of equal opportunity. There are male male lap dancers and female lap dancers. This was not enough for quite a lot of people, you know, of course. People who were either upset because men or women were being objectified, or people that just had the moral high ground, and religious people mostly, because there's still a humongous number of religious people in the board gaming hobby. It always boggles my mind. But nevertheless, I'm interested. When you have an awesome... Okay, I'm not going to say it's awesome. I never had like an inkling to play a game about running a strip club, but it's certainly interesting and unique, and I love unique themes. So of course I'm going to be willing to give it a shot, and it is from Artipia Games. I just played Among the Stars from them, and it's fantastic. So I'm willing to give it a shot, and I can't stand people who would just not even try it or even talk about it. You know, it can't even be mentioned. Doesn't exist. What? Come on, we're all adults here, I hope. So that's part of the reason why, a huge part of the reason why I put it on my list. So that's my number 10, Lap Dance from Artipia Games. Well, as I mentioned, my number 9 is also from Artipia Games, and it is New Dawn. New Dawn is set in the universe of Among the Stars, which I just recently had a chance to play and review, and it's great. So that made me even more interested in New Dawn, although this is a very different game. This is not just a Seven Wonders style card drafting game. This is more of a Euro game civilization builder, although in this case you're rebuilding civilization. In the universe of Among the Stars and New Dawn, there's been this great galactic war that destroyed many parts of all these different civilizations, and all these groups and factions are trying to come together and have peace while at the same time rebuilding their sector and potentially trying to be the best alien race and maybe even reignite the war. But in any event, this game is more of a Euro style where you're trying to rebuild this empire, you're trying to build up your military, get new technologies and rekindle technologies, stuff like that. Awesome components, the same awesome artwork as Among the Stars, definitely something on my radar. That is my number 9, New Dawn. Portal Games is doing such a good job with their content that I feel kind of bad that they didn't make it onto my top 10 game publishers list. When you look at Robinson Crusoe, Imperial Settlers, and Nourishima Hex, which is a game I've been dying to try, they definitely have theme down pat. And how am I not going to put a new expansion for Robinson Crusoe on my list? That is number 8. Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island, Voyage of the Beagle. This is an expansion set with brand new adventures for you to cooperatively go through in the Robinson Crusoe game. And of course, hence the name, they are based on the trials and tribulations of the ship that Charles Darwin sailed on, the Voyage of the Beagle. And it just looks awesome. I mean, it looks like there's so much content in this thing. It even comes in a box that most normal board games, full board games, would fit into, but this is Robinson Crusoe we're talking about, and it's if you haven't played that game, ridiculously hard, very, very thematic. You're playing through a story, and great, interesting mechanics. It's got the whole package. I can't recommend it highly enough, and anytime there's new content for it, I will be there. This will be released domestically by Z-Man Games eventually, although I heard that Portal was kind of doing their own stuff worldwide now. I don't know. I still think Z-Man's going to be putting this one out later this year, and I can't wait for it. That's Robinson Crusoe, Voyage of the Beagle, my number 8. Okay, it would not be one of my top 10 lists unless I mentioned some really obscure Asian card game, and this is at least the first of those on this list. This is In Love and War from Kuraki Mura and his studio, Kuraki Mura BG Studio. I hope I got that correct. I'm very sorry if I don't. But this is a very cute looking card game where there's like chibi cat characters on all the cards, and you're trying to submit a marriage proposal to the person that you love. But of course, that's just kind of the pace it on theme. What you're really doing is it's clever card play by a sort of love letter type mechanics. You're drawing a card, discarding a card, trying to have some effect on the game, and trying to get to the marriage proposals. There's not a ton of information, although the rules are posted, but man, it just looks very cute, very clever. And I've had such good luck with these types of card games from Japan, from Korea, from Taiwan, that I've got to give it a shot, and it looks really cool. I'm sure that every other game that was behind this one and every game publisher would be like, this game beat me out, But yes, I am very eager to give it a shot. That's In Love and War, my number 7. My number 6 is Rice, the Empire of Sand. That's Rice spelled R-Y-C-E, which I think is Rich Yield Crystal Energy. This is an area control resource management game where you are trying to take control of, it's in the future, Earth is like desolate now, and you're trying to take control of this resource called rice that's on Mars, but you get to Mars and find out, hey, look, there actually are aliens on Mars. So now you're trying to battle them as well as the other players in order to get as much of this substance as you can. Well, that all sounds okay. It's kind of a theme we've actually seen before, believe it or not, for as unique as it is. What really shocked me about this game was how awesome the components looked. They're going to have a normal edition and a collector's edition at the Essen Fair, and that collector's edition was just like, whoa. I mean, this is the game that Madagot should be putting out for sure. And it's also going to be coming to Kickstarter for a worldwide release. I don't know, maybe later this year, maybe the beginning of the next year, where you might be able to get a similar edition to the one they're selling at the fair. Just looks awesome. Very cool theme. Very cool looking artwork and design. Can't wait to give it a shot. That's Rice, the Empire of Sand. My number 5 anticipated game of Essen is also from Madagot, and I really don't mean to be mentioning them so much, it's just sort of happening, but it is Room 25 Season 2. Now, Room 25, I actually, when I was putting this list together, I was like, I didn't review that yet? I actually own it. I've owned it for quite some time. It's a really fun semi-cooperative, or if you want, fully cooperative. No one plays it that way. Don't do that. Semi-cooperative game that a lot of people say is like the movie Cube. I've never seen that movie, so people keep saying that, and I'm like, okay, sure. But it's your like contestants in like this killer Running Man type game show. You're trying to get through this room of constantly shifting modular tiles, and if you play the way it's supposed to be played, in my opinion, one amongst you may be a secret guard who's trying to keep the rest of you in the complex and keep you from escaping, which is your ultimate goal. So you can, there's betrayal, it's got the whole traitor aspect. Very cool, very cool theme. I wouldn't say it's totally thematic, but it's got a cool theme to it, if those two things make sense. The one major complaint I had about, and a lot of people had about Room 25, is that the players, the different characters that you got that all looked really cool and had their own miniatures and their own artwork, all had no powers. None. They were all exactly the same. This one, finally, everyone gets new powers. You have new characters. There's now a robot in the complex in Season 2. You have new tiles to worry about. You have this adrenaline surge ability that's going to give you extra moves. So that's all really cool. And they actually changed, like every character in the original had like a title, and one of like the jock and stuff like that, or the little girl, well, one of the women was called the Bimbo, which was really dumb and insensitive, even for me, and I'm not really, that's, you know, I don't get offended easily, but it was really stupid, and no one wanted to play as her because of that reason. So they're changing that, and I'm really happy about that. And everything else looks to be changing for the better, because I thought the Room 25 was fun, but not great. It hasn't really come out that much, but with this expansion, it definitely could, and I'm really looking forward to it. So my number 5 is Room 25 Expansion Season 2. Well, what do you know? A game from my top 10 games of Gen Con 2014 list made it onto this list because they did not actually show up with the game at the show. That is Trains, the Rising Sun standalone game from AEG. This is not just an expansion for the original Trains, but it stands on its own. You can play it by itself, but you can also mix it together with the original game. And the main calling card of this game, and why you should get it if you like Trains, is just because it's more cards that you can put into your decks, you know, new maps, all of this stuff is just more, which is a fantastic thing. And if that's all that it was, I would still be extremely excited for this expansion. But this also adds the idea of having goal cards, which is sort of like a Ticket to Ride type aspect for connecting different routes and getting more points in the game, which sounds great, because I don't like Ticket to Ride, but that was one of the cool things that I did kind of like about it, was the idea of that. Putting it into one of my favorite games, Trains, fantastic. Can't wait for it. Hopefully it actually shows up at this convention, and that it will be soon available to the rest of the world afterwards. That's Trains, the Rising Sun expansion. Now I'm going to confess I don't have a ton of information about my number 3, so maybe I'm falling into the same pitfall that I had with my 2013 list, but I don't care because what I've seen of this game so far makes me really excited for it. It's called Mysterium, although for right now in BGG you're going to find it underneath a Polish name that I will not even attempt to pronounce, but I'll put it somewhere in the video so you can read it and type it in yourself. But this is a very cool looking cooperative game where, okay, let me say this right off the bat. In real life, the idea of paranormal investigators makes me want to vomit for how they swindle people and how fake and ridiculous it all is. But in a game setting, I think it sounds like an awesome theme. And that's what this is. You are a group of paranormal investigators going to a mansion and trying to put a ghost that's in the mansion to rest. And guess what? One of the players in the game plays the ghost. And from what I understand, it looks like it's all using cards for all the different locations and what you do in the game. And you're trying to put this spirit to rest, and you're working together cooperatively to do that. It looks like there's some deduction elements to it and finding out the clues of how to put the spirit to rest. It seems super duper cool. And again, this is from Portal Games, which means that they've got a reputation for super thematic, super fun, just awesomely integrated theme mechanic situation. So really looking forward to it. I hope to learn more about it. It doesn't even have its proper English name yet, so I don't know how long it's going to take to be released over here, but I, for one, am certainly looking forward to it. That is Mysterium, or blah, 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 from Portal Games, my number 3. My number 2 is making it onto my list based off of the theme, the art style, and how strong this company's previous design that I played was. And that is League of Hackers from Moa Ideas game design. The previous game that Moa Ideas had put out, that at least the one that I had played, was Dungeon Guilds, which they sent to me, which was an amazing little game that never got a wider release, which makes me very sad, and I really hope I'm able to get a copy of this one because of that reason, because Dungeon Guilds was an amazing little card game, very quick, very fast, but so much game in that little box of deceiving other people, bluffing people out. Watch my review for that one. League of Hackers looks like it's along those same lines, especially as far as the sort of anime chibi art style, but together with the cool theme, which is even better than Dungeon Guild's kind of generic theme, which is that each player plays like a team of hackers, and you're in this like competition with each other, trying to bust through each other's firewalls, setting up stronger, more impregnable firewalls, and just doing all this kind of hacky stuff to each other, through card play, of course. But man, it just really, really seems like a neat idea. Again, Asian game companies are where it's at as far as unique design. It's different themes, just different mechanics. I'm very happy with what's been going on over there, and I'm really hoping to give this one a shot. That is my number 2, League of Hackers. And finally, my number 1 anticipated game of Essen 2014 is one of the few games on this list that I think I have a reasonable shot of getting before the end of the year, despite the fact that it is probably the game that's going to be in the most demand and the hardest to get, and that is Dragon Scroll from Fragor Games. Now, if you don't know anything about Fragor Games, they are a company that's I think it's just a 2-man operation, the Fragor brothers, although I'm sure they have help. They put out 1 game a year at Essen, and they have a penchant for overproducing their games. Their games are like beautiful, and because of that, because of the expense of creating the games, they only put out a limited quantity, and once it's gone, it's gone. Some of them actually do get picked up for a wider release, like Snowtails. Poseidon's Kingdom just got re-released, or will be getting re-released from Game Salute domestically, but a lot of them don't. And so when they open up pre-orders every year, they usually get snatched up very, very quickly with their limited quantity, and then they'll have a few for sale at Essen Fair. Well, I got a pre-order for Dragon Scroll, and I'm hoping that I'm able to have it shipped to me relatively soon. I have no idea how long after the show I might actually get it, but I'm very, very eager to, because what information has trickled out seems super, super cool. You are engaged in like this dragon competition with, of course, these awesome looking miniature dragons. Man, I am very, very excited for it. This will be my first Fragor games. I've never even played Snowtails, and I just love the theme. I love the idea of having all these different dragons with their own unique names and personalities and colors competing with each other. Just seems very, very cool. So I won't lie, a lot of it is just the theme and components for me, but really, when you don't have a lot to go on, that could be enough. And they have a reputation for producing very fun games, even apart from the theme and components. So I'm definitely willing to give it a shot. I've been excited about it for a couple of months now since they first announced the pre-orders, and I can't wait to get it into my hands. That's my #1 anticipated game of Essen 2014, Dragon Scroll from Fragor Games. Well, folks, that's it. That is my top 10 games of Essen 2014. One of these years, maybe I'll actually make it out to the fair and be able to pick up some of these games and talk to some of the designers and publishers, because I don't know, there's very slim hopes that I'll get some of these games, although I desperately want to, especially some of the smaller Korean and Japanese and Taiwanese games, because they're just so rare and such limited print qualities, but you never know. Hopefully I can get a hold of these and play these, because I am very, very excited about the future of board gaming, and I think that, while Gen Con may have more of like the spectacle and grandness to it, and the games that you know are going to be hot, new, sellout releases, Essen, for me personally, from what I've seen of it just from afar, seems like the incubation tank for some very, very cool and unique games. Games that fly under the radar, but that can still stand toe-to-toe or head-to-head or whatever body part with the bigger, more grandiose games. At least that's been my experience so far, and I don't see that trend dying down anytime soon. Very excited either way. We live in a fantastic time for board gaming, and I'm looking forward to all the new games coming out in the future. My name is Nick, this has been Board Game Brawl, and I am reminding you to get out there and game every day and every day. Take care.